We are joined now by Cornell Williams-Brooks, president of the NAACP. Mr. Brooks, thank you for being here. We know what the charges mean legally, but to the community, to the people of Baltimore, what does it mean?
Well, these charges in Baltimore mean what the DOJ report meant in Ferguson. That is to say, an affirmation of the apprehensions and suspicions of the community. We don't know what they mean in terms ultimately, in terms of a conviction. These officers are presumed innocent under our laws, but these charges mean quite a bit to people on the street. When you have an officer, a police department, that suggests that a young man who runs upon seeing the police is somehow engaged in criminal activity, in a community and in a city and in a country where African-American young men are 21 times more likely to lose their lives at the hands of the police, it means quite a bit when the state's attorney says that these officers arrested this young man without probable cause. That's an affirmation of the kinds of apprehensions, the fears that are felt in this community. So I'd like to believe that these charges are one step forward. They're by no means an end. They are, in fact, a beginning, but it is an important step forward.
How surprised were you to hear these charges this morning?
Candidly, I was stunned. Stunned because this entire week we have been led to believe that on Friday a step would be taken forward, but that it was an administrative step. The passage of the preliminary report to the state's attorney. We were told that not to expect much, to manage the expectations, to certainly communicate to the community that in all likelihood there was not going to be any revelation of the content of that report. So to have critical details disclosed, to have the state's attorney speak to the issue, to have these officers charged is just utterly surprising, stunning. But that said, it is, in the midst of this tragedy, a pleasant surprise.
So given how stunned and surprised you were by this move by the state's attorney, what does that then say to you about the state's attorney, about the reaction of the authorities there in Baltimore?
Hopefully what it says is that this attorney, state's attorney, Ms. Mosby, is committed to a thorough, complete investigation and prosecution of these officers, and that she understands, and she is, I believe, demonstrated thus far, that she is intent on fulfilling, living, realizing the oath that she has taken to the citizens of Baltimore, and that the citizens of Baltimore can expect from the state's attorney justice, whatever that means. And as the president has said, the revelation of whatever truth or truths there are to be found or disclosed. Because at the end of the day, people want answers to questions, but ultimately, they want an answer to the question of why must police brutality and misconduct and racial profiling continue. Ultimately, the people want both justice for Freddie Gray's family and the community, but also justice for the entire city and the citizenry in terms of bringing about an end to racial profiling and police misconduct.
Mr. Brooks, this is just the first step in a very long process.
Indeed.
Are you finding that people are prepared for the possibility that these officers may not be convicted?
I'm not sure if people are even wrapping their minds around what happens ultimately. They're still trying to come to grips with what has just happened, namely that 6 officers have been charged with charges ranging from murder to manslaughter. This is a very, very significant step forward, and I believe that people are still trying to come to grips with that. I don't think we need to gaze into a crystal ball or look too far down the road. We simply need to do that which we can do, which is to say, continue to press for systemic reform, continue to keep our communities safe, keep our young people safe, to peacefully protest and engage in nonviolent advocacy. Those are the things that we should do, even as we wait for the system to do what it was designed to do and what it should do under our system of laws and our Constitution.
So you've observed a lot of incidents in a lot of different communities across the country, I would assume. Compare the reaction of this state's attorney and this, the authorities in Baltimore here. Compare that to other situations that you have seen around the country where you've seen things happen differently.
Well, one of the things that I'm heartened by is that the state's attorney, Ms. Mosby, made it clear that she was concerned about the integrity of the process, very concerned about preventing leaks, from making sure that the process worked well and that the process had integrity and that people can trust it. That, I believe, is critically important. In Ferguson, I don't believe we saw that. That grand jury process, according to scholars, legal analysts, people around the country, was less than a model of integrity and less than a model of a legal proceeding. This, I believe, at least at this early stage, is markedly different. So that is heartening. But again, this is just one step in a long process. But the step taken thus far is encouraging, heartening, and gives us some confidence in terms of the journey ahead.
Mr. Brooks, I know you have an understanding that beyond the prosecution here, the question is, how do you rebuild this community? How do you rebuild trust in the police? And how do you rebuild a dialogue that in many cases has been lost between the various communities?
Well, I think one of the ways you do it is by engaging the community at the grassroots level. One of the things that the NAACP has done, and as you know, Baltimore is not only the headquarters of the national NAACP, but is also the home of a branch of the NAACP that has been there for generations. And Sandtown, Winchester, the community in which Freddie Gray died, was the home, the community, the block of one of our greatest heroes, Thurgood Marshall. So we opened our Baltimore branch in the national office, opened a satellite office to take testimony from witnesses, to investigate, to talk to people, to provide critically needed social services. So it's important for us to engage at the grassroots level. But beyond that, we've got to communicate to the entire city, to the entire citizenry, the importance of working with the process, even as you are apprehensive and distrustful and perhaps justifiably suspicious, and to engage in peaceful protests, but to also be clear about this. Push for systemic reform, body cameras, a fundamental change in policing in Baltimore. That is to say, a form of policing that is built on community policing, engaging the community, creating a sense of trust. This can be done. It has been done in police departments around the country. We've seen places where crime has fallen, community trust has risen, police officers are in fact safer, and communities are safer with a more community-oriented policing. Where you have police officers who are feared because young people think that they're going to be taken on a rough ride, that does not contribute to efficient or reliable or integrity-driven prosecutions. That does not contribute to community trust. So the point being here is this police department has to be about the business of engaging the community in a serious and sustained way, and to look at and emulate the best models of best practices of police departments around the country. It's been done before. It can be done in Baltimore.
Mr. Brooks, Cornell William Brooks of the NAACP. Sir, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.